Hello, everyone. My name is L, and today I will tell you about Orient. At the beginning of the anime, we are told how one demon fell on the Hinomoto country, resulting in human rules, and all the generals fell one by one. But there were still individuals ready to fight the demons to the death. The war has been going on for more than 150 years. These people are called the Bushi gangs. Kishin's reign lasts 151 years. Society was divided into two parts. One part loves and worships demons, and even they go to school as minors from childhood to get closer to the demons. In schools, children are taught that the Bush were thieves and ruled the country only by violence from the very beginning of their childhood. They were prepared to hate these people. The main character, named Musashi, who is studying at a school for a minor, secretly wants to become one of the Bushi. From an early age, he had this dream, which he shared with his brother Kojiro. It is revealed that the two went on different paths. Kojiro was the son of a Bushi and therefore despised by everyone. But Musashi is a minor, and because of this, Kojiro treats their brother with prejudice and distrust. When Musashi came to remind him of what the two were aiming for, his brother immediately retorted that he was lying and wouldn't become a Bushi. Only then did Musashi reveal his scarlet pickaxe in the form of a katana, or a katana in the form of a pickaxe. From now on, Musashi wants to show how serious he is. After he leaves, we understand that his brother knows everything and only wants what is best for him, since the boy may not like society. Musashi and his group go to the mine to meet the real demons. Everyone is happy, but not for long, because in a moment they find their natural appearance in the working conditions of the miners. Our hero realizes that this is his chance, which he went for so long, and tries to fight one of these demons. But his katana is not next to him, so he grabs the one lying next to him and tries to fight the enemy, but it turns out badly. Then Kojiro arrives and gives it to Kirk. Thanks to her, he definitely cuts down the demons. Now the brothers have sworn an oath to defeat the demons together. Two guys are moving toward Kishin, cutting down all the demons in their path. As soon as they got close to the main boss, they were met by a cylindrical creature with a beak and paws. Musashi immediately cut down the enemy, but a few seconds later, Kishin recovered. Two enslaved people carrying a cart of ore approach him. This ore is Kishin's food. After accepting it, it took on its true form, a giant red demon with 6 arms and a large belly. Kishin tried to throw a punch but missed, and the wave of impact took down the motorcycle and the riders. Musashi lost consciousness as well. Kojiro tried to get to his feet. Kishin had already brought his gaze closer to it, and with his claws, he wanted to get the Kojiro katana. The young man will never give up his sword as it was given to him by his father, and he ordered it to be carefully stored. The slaves shot from below that Kishin feeds on swords and therefore advised him to let go of the katana. After much torment, Kishin still manages to take the sword from the youth, but Musashi notices this and he has a goal to take the sword back. He climbed onto the demon's belly and began hacking with his pickaxe until he reached the end and made a hole inside. Inside was the stomach juice that Musashi had fallen into. He was still able to pull out the Kojiro family heirloom. At that moment, Bushi's Takeda gang flew out of the palace. They easily cut through the sky dome and fled to the young men on motorcycles. It turned out that to kill Kishin, you need to cut his horn. Musashi did not want to give up his loot to the gang and therefore fought through other demons to the main boss. The Takeda gang master noticed his fighting style, and he liked it. His team is preparing to attack. Bushi's gang stops Musashi by pulling him to themselves with a green rope, but he quickly gets out of it. He doesn't want to give up his loot. A gang of Bushi is preparing to launch an airstrike on Kishin's horn. Musashi slams his katana into the ground, creating cracks and showing off his power. Bushi's punch is already being thrown, but Kishin dodged it. Then Kojiro got information about what weakness the demons have, this horn. In this Kishin, the fennel is located on the abdomen in the place of the navel. Musashi has already got close to the horn and strikes, but it doesn't change anything. His katana is too weak and fragile. Then Takeda arrives in time and cuts Kishin's horn with his katana. The man apologizes to the young man as he takes their loot. We see the entire Bushi gang absorbing Kishin's powers. A white aura envelops their swords. When there was an uproar, everyone thanked Takeda's savior, except Musashi, who was angry. A man noticed the young man and he praised the guy. Then Musashi flared up and yelled at the master, saying everything he thought. Takeda respects brave people and puts an amulet around the guy's neck that will help him find the next Kishin. Already at home, two guys are trying to solve the riddle of this gift and what its meaning is. They notice that it looks like a kaleidoscope. This thing lets you find one eye from the scroll. They learn that each Kishin has a different form, and it also says not to give the country to the Kishin and free it. The guy realized that the destruction of Kishins was a step towards the country's unification. On the next day, two guys leave their hometown to achieve their goal. In this episode, we are shown how two guys lose their optimism on day 7 and run out of food. They are forced to stop near the river and catch fish. Then they had a little fight because Kojiro is more independent and able to survive in such conditions than our main character. Then Musashi leaves his friend, and when he returns, he does not notice him. He also saw Kojiro lying tied up. He only sees the girl. The girl tries in every possible way to defeat the hero, but she fails. The guy is prepared for everything. Then the girl opens 2 of her blades but does not have time to give battle as the bell rings. She takes the guy's motorcycle and leaves for the castle. The boys will not give up their father's bike, so they rush to get it. Arriving at the court, the same girl meets them and leads them to the motorcycle, telling them how their gang lives. The girl's name is Tsugumi, and she gets along well with everyone. Suddenly, the guys are called by the gentleman for dinner. At the meal, Sir Kazumida Hideo offers to join them and fight side by side, dividing Kitsetsu. The boys don't know what Kitsetsu means, so the master orders them to be locked in a dungeon. We can see how badly the master treats Tsugumi. He insults her in every possible way, and she, fearing that she will be kicked out of the castle, agrees with him. The girl ran to the guys in the dungeon to ask if they still had kaitetsu, and she explained the meaning of this word there. Musashi noticed that the girl was silent about something and asked her to speak out. Tsugumi is opposed to the townspeople dying and does not want the population to obey the order of the Lord to go out to battle with the impending wall Oni. The guys got out of the dungeon using the Kojiro skill. We watch as the master pushes Tsugumi again after she contradicts him. The head threatens to expel her from the castle. He has already convinced her that she will not live a day alone without her family, so the girl suffers all the humiliations. After that, she went to the big picture which shows her sister and herself only at a younger age. She breaks down and says everything to the image. Then, at this point, destroying the wall with a motorcycle, Musashi and Kojiro fly in. They offer the girl to be with them and arrange a raid on their base. There are already many people on the street, and everyone is listening to the lie of the master's speech that everyone will take blades and share the joy of victory with other fighters, but in reality, it is certain death. The guys threw smoke bombs at the torches, and the smoke quickly disappeared over the square, hiding them from the eyes of the guards. Tsugumi's task is to distract the master while the guys deal with all the guards. She argues with him and tries to change his mind as the plan will not work when the guards are already lying on the ground. Tsugumi tells the people to run out of the castle and hide, but everyone stands still as the Lord has so intimidated everyone, as well as the girl, so they are afraid to go outside the walls. Tsugumi has to fight with Kasumida to prove to people that there is no need to be scared. The girl misses a lot of blows, and in the moment of psychological pressure, she does not give up and delivers a decisive blow that crushes the man. She tied him up and ordered the men to run. Now they were listening to her. They're coming to the castle. One eye, and the girl is standing on the square. She realizes that she will probably die, but guys save her on a motorcycle, and together they fly over the enemy. Now Tsugumi needs to leave her home because if she stays, she can again obey the master, and even worse, follow his orders. So she joins Musashi and Kojiro. Musashi looks into his kaleidoscope and tells the direction of the next Kishin's location. Stopping for a rest stop, Tsugumi wants to get closer to the main character and make friends with him. She takes off her clothes while Kojiro watches. Musashi doesn't want to ruin their long-standing friendship and has his secret: he likes older women. It turns out that Tsugumi wanted to make friends with the two guys, but she got undressed because her sister said that if there is an exciting moment, take off your clothes. The guys understood and accepted her as their friends. Upon waking up in the morning, Musashi notices how one little one-eye stole a Kojiro katana. The guy chased after him, hitting the horn with an iron stick, but the stick kept breaking and breaking. One eye took him to the cemetery of Katan. An unknown man was standing there who reminded me that to kill a demon you need to cut the horn with Kaitetsu's sword. Without thinking twice, Musashi grabbed a nearby sword, and an unknown aura immediately enveloped him. Gray crystals began to grow out of his body, and when this phenomenon ended, he quickly destroyed the Horn One-Eye. After the demon's death, the sword's aura began to enter the man. He praised the boy for being able to defeat the demon with a blunt katana. Suddenly, a girl appeared and together they called themselves Chained Dogs and literally disappeared. Kojiro and Tsugumi arrived, finding their friend, and they continued on their way. The girl explained to the main character that with the Horn One-Eye, you can only cut a kaitetsu with your sword, and the sword itself can be bought. In this episode, the group comes to buy a kaitetsu sword, but the sword is a very valuable item, so it's the last one to be auctioned. During the meal, Kojiro became the team captain. Everyone supported this decision, and now it's time to show the blades to kaitetsu. Musashi does not know which sword to choose, so the head of the gang, Osafun Mitsuru, approaches him. She claims that the sword itself must choose its owner. Choosing a sword is almost like coming of age. Kojiro wasn't decisive about which sword to decide for himself. At the same time, Musashi had already chosen a katana which the lady then praised. To get a kaitetsu katana, you need to pick it up, and only when the sword accepts its owner, then the sword can be taken away. Sword test: as soon as you take hold of the hilt, the pulse quickens, and something incomprehensible passes through the body. Many people say that they saw something during the test. When the sword accepts the owner, it will light up with a bright light. Kojiro passed the test, and his katana lit up blue. There are 5 colors in total, and the power of the soul depends on which color. Blue is a standard color, almost half of all bushis have this color. Meanwhile, Musashi still passes the test, and something strange happens to him. A woman came to him and said something softly, then hugged him. His body lit up in black, which means that the sword rejects the person. At this moment, the village is attacked by demons. Kojiro quickly deals with them, cutting all of the horns. Now all the bushis are being summoned for a big battle with Kishin. Unfortunately, there is no Musashi in these ranks, as he does not have the kaitetsu sword. Musashi easily let go of his friends, and he remains sitting in the same place. Musashi is approached by the same man from the Shiru sword graveyard. He shows how powerful he is by carving a huge square and chopping it into many small pieces. Shiru is, in fact, a weapon, and that's why he has such phenomenal strength. He offers to become Musashi like this, but the guy refuses, as he will no longer be able to be near his friends. Shiru simply pushed the young man into the abyss, throwing Kaitetsu's sword. While climbing the mountain, Kojiro and Tsugumi remember their friend. The girl asks to tell him where Musashi is from and who his parents are. The guy says his parents were ordinary farmers, but why did Kaitetsu's sword reject him? Then at this moment, Shiro's assistant approaches the abyss, now, and he brings food with him. Meanwhile, Musashi is still falling into a huge pit, but suddenly he notices Kaitetsu's sword flying nearby and tries to take it. He succeeds and tries to stop himself, thrusting his sword into the ground. He gradually turned Musashi's into a black crystal, and the guy fell into the magma. So far, he remains alive and communicates with a strange transparent person who explains to him about his childhood. Musashi's parents died of terrible illnesses, and the little boy needed to go somewhere. His relatives have to take him in, but they don't want to take him because he and his family were friends with Bushi. The child becomes withdrawn, he wants to be at least someone needed. One day while walking around the city, his family asked him to throw a rock at Kojiru's father, Kanamaki Jisai. He was Bushi, and the boy had to do that to avoid being an outcast. Still, the old man does not hold a grudge against the boy and offers him to live together. The transparent personality begins to pressure the young man emotionally, and Musashi gradually loses faith, becoming obsidian. Meanwhile, on their way to the mountain, Bushi's gang found Kishin already stricken. The group discovers a decapitated Kishin, and at this moment, Shiru appears. It was he who beheaded him. The Bushis pointed their weapons at the man, but he only touched his sword, as several Bushis were already dead. He needs Bushi's sword Kaitetsu, so he'll have to kill them all. At this point, Nanao pulls Musashi out of the abyss with his walking stick. By mistake he thought that the guy had already turned into a black crystal. He quickly put on a samurai robe and rushed up the mountain to join his friends, as he remembered Shiru's words that he would make weapons out of his friends. All the Bushis are running away from Shiru. Only one Kojiro came out of the running crowd and decided to redirect Shiru. He is ready to take the fight to him to save the fleeing Bushi. When the man has already grabbed the guy and lifted him above him, Musashi appears at this moment, half becoming obsidian. It turns out that the Kaitetsu blade didn't accept the guy, but it didn't reject him either, he can use it. Shiro hunts the main character because there is a goddess in him that he wants to get. Shiro gives the right to Nanao, takes the group's lives, her staff split into 7 armadillo blades. She has a secret blade technique called the Death Wheel, it's impossible to avoid them. But Musashi realizes that blades can be cut with a normal sword, so that he can fight. He uses his blade technique and practically delivers a decisive blow to Nanao, but she manages to push him away. Kojiro suggests the idea of smashing all 7 of her swords. Captain Kojiro came up with a plan. Kojiro himself stays put when Musashi and Tsugumi run off in the opposite direction. Nanao is about to strike at Musashi, and Tsugumi anticipates this. She catches the intruder's blades. After that, they break. Shiro is very dissatisfied that the assistant did not cope with the task and decided to fight himself. He created a huge cube over the mountain area, and he tore off a piece of it and lifted it into the sky. Then it just rolled over those who didn't have time to stick their swords in the ground and grab onto them, just fell and died. Musashi was left hanging on the katana, as were Kojiro and Tsugumi, but all of a sudden, Shiro slammed his sword into the ground, creating a shaking sensation, and all the people started to fall. Then something stops time. We are shown how the obsidian goddess resting in Musashi's body revealed herself and explained that she should not let the guy die, as she can also pass away. Musashi says that he doesn't want to be left without friends and needs to save everyone. The goddess realized that his friends helped the guy survive and she will help too. She woke up and flew into Musashi's body. Great power was activated, which lifted the people's katanas, saving them from falling. In Musashi's body, there was a symbiosis of 2 personalities. Now the goddess is ready to fight Shiro. The friends do not recognize their faithful Musashi, and then the goddess of obsidian appears to Kojiro and thanks him for sparing his friend's life. The goddess accumulates the power of all Kaitetsu swords and creates a huge white dome. The rest of the Bushis help her with this. The fight didn't last that long. Musashi delivers a powerful blow after which several mountains in front were left without a top, and the enemy himself disappeared somewhere. In any case, he's defeated. Now all of the Bushis are happy about the victory, but the goddess's words torment Musashi about being careful not to end their fate like this. We are shown how Shiro cut through the sky and descended to the ocean on a large platform. There was also Kishin's huge head. Musashi sees the relatives and friends of the dead Bushi crying in the cemetery of swords. It's the only thing they have left. As a thank you, the head of the Bushi gang offered a hotel for 3 friends. Musashi has one more request to pass the sword test again, but this time only once. The guy remembers how Jisai respected all of the rules of Bushi and how he kept his katana. So, Musashi picks up a katana, but the guy starts to shine ruby red. This time he managed to pass the test, and Kaitetsu sword chose him. After the ordeal, Musashi calls Kojiro to talk about his father and the obsidian goddess, but unfortunately, Kojiro doesn't know anything about secret connections to Bushi outside the city limits and connections to the obsidian goddess. We see Shiro with Nanao. They discuss the goddess. They only know what kind of body she was in earlier. This is Bushi Jisai, but for unknown reasons, she decided to change her receptacle. No matter what, the 3 friends need to continue on their way but already to the east. Kojiro realized the seriousness of being a Bushi and pulled himself together to be a follow-on to a childhood dream. The group continues on their way but is already through a swampy area. Unexpectedly Kojiro and Tsugumi are attacked by a swamp demon. He immediately encases his prisoners in a cocoon. Musashi immediately noticed 2 cocoons his friends were in, but another one was also. He quickly dealt with the demon and released everyone from the cocoon. The last person in the cocoon was the princess. She's not very talkative. We hear the bursar who is carrying the princess running towards the group. He also thanked the rescuers and offered them a ride. During the trip, Musashi tried to somehow talk to the princess, but she ignored him. He asked questions, but his friends quickly changed the subject. Tsugumi pointed at the map with huge black spots on its border. Musashi suddenly flared up at his friends for changing the subject and called out the princess's name. This caused the girl to be shocked. Suddenly a rock appeared on the road which threw Musashi and the princess from the car. They flew down the mountain, but fortunately, the princess had a sword with her which helped save them. At this point, the girl began to explain and ask forgiveness for what she had ignored. She also explained about the black spot. A huge wall was invisible on the horizon. This wall, according to legend, the very first kitchen from the very beginning, miners fed it with ore and it grew in size every day for 150 years. No one could hit it, but they still strive. If this is not done, he can destroy an entire country. It is called Dark Kitchen. It's time to say goodbye to your fellow travelers. The treasurer said that at the moment, 5 commanders are most close to the unification of nations. The treasurer offered to join them in Harima, and so the journey continues again. Meanwhile, numerous bushy gangs are going on a long trip and collecting things at the port now. Meanwhile, he contacts fellow humans with obsidian powers, and they create a plan to capture the goddess. Season 1 ends with Musashi watching the ocean for the first time in his life. That's all for today.